And he shall judge among the nations, and shall rebuke many people. And they shall beat their swords into plowshares, and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore. O house of Jacob, come ye, let us walk in the light of the Lord. Therefore thou hast forsaken thy people, the house of Jacob, because they be replenished.
Hello, good day. Welcome to Line by Line Bible Studies. We're continuing our study today in the Gospel of Matthew. Oh, Paul. Yeah, I like John too. All right, let's get reading. Chapter 11. We're going to pick up our verse-by-verse analysis at verse 15, but let's read the whole chapter again, just to get ourselves back in context. And it came to pass, when Jesus had made an end of commanding his... Hold on a second. Sorry about that. It's the cord that came with this little thing. I should replace it. All right. And it came to pass, when Jesus had made an end of commanding his 12 disciples, he departed thence to teach and to preach in their cities. Something's up here. And I thought I fixed it the other day. Because I had a loose screw. I thought, oh, maybe the shielding was having issues. All right, here we go. And it came to pass, when Jesus had made an end of commanding his 12 disciples, he departed thence to teach and to preach in their cities. Now when John had heard in the prison the works of Christ, he sent 2 of his disciples, and said unto him, Art thou he that should come, or do we look for another? Jesus answered and said unto them, Go and show John again those things which ye do hear and see. The blind receive their sight, and the lame walk. The lepers are cleansed, and the deaf hear. And the dead are raised up, and the poor have the gospel preached unto them. And blessed is he, whosoever shall not be offended in me. And as they departed, Jesus began to say unto the multitudes concerning John, What went ye out into the wilderness to see? A reed shaken with the wind? But what went ye out for to see? A man clothed in soft raiment? Behold, they that wear soft clothing are in kings' houses. But what went ye out for to see? A prophet? Yea, I say unto you, and more than a prophet, for this is he of whom it is written, Behold, I send my messenger before thy face, which shall prepare the way before thee. Thy way before thee. Verily I say unto you, among them that are born of women, there hath not risen a greater than John the Baptist. Notwithstanding, he that is least in the kingdom of heaven is greater than he. And from the days of John the Baptist until now, the kingdom of heaven suffereth violence, and the violent take it by force. For all the prophets and the law prophesied until John. And if you will receive it, this is Elias, which was for to come. He that hath ears to hear, let him hear. But whereunto shall I liken this generation? It is like unto children sitting in the markets, and calling unto their fellows, and saying, We have piped unto you, and ye have not danced. We have mourned unto you, and ye have not lamented. For John came neither eating nor drinking, and they say, He hath a devil. And the Son of Man came eating and drinking, and they say, Behold, a man gluttonous, and a winebibber, a friend of publicans and sinners. But wisdom is justified of her children. Then began he to upbraid the cities wherein most of his mighty works were done, because they repented not. Woe unto thee, Chorazin! Woe unto thee, Bethsaida! For if the mighty works which were done in you had been done in Tyre and Sidon, they would have repented long ago in sackcloth and ashes. But I say unto you, it shall be more tolerable for Tyre and Sidon in the day of judgment than for you. And thou, Capernaum, which art exalted into heaven, shalt be brought down to hell. For if the mighty works which had been done in thee had been done in Sodom, it would have remained until this day. But I say unto you, that it shall be more tolerable for the land of Sodom in the day of judgment than for thee. At that time Jesus answered and said, I thank thee, O Father, Lord of heaven and earth, because thou hast hid these things from the wise and prudent, and hast revealed them unto babes. Even so, Father, for so it seemed good in thy sight. All things are delivered unto me of my Father, and no man knoweth the Son but the Father, neither knoweth any man the Father save the Son, and he to whomsoever the Son will reveal him. Come unto me, all ye that labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you, and learn of me, for I am meek and lowly in heart, and ye shall find rest unto your souls. For my yoke is easy, and my burden is light. I'm going to read the next chapter because we might actually get into it. At that time, Jesus went on the Sabbath day through the corn, and his disciples were an hungered, and began to pluck the ears of corn and to eat. But when the Pharisees saw it, they said unto him, Behold, thy disciples do that which is not lawful to do upon the Sabbath day. But he said unto them, Have ye not read what David did, when he was an hungered, and they that were with him? How he entered into the house of God, and did eat the showbread, which was not lawful for him to eat, neither for them which were with him, but only for the priests. Or have ye not read in the law, how that on the Sabbath day the priests in the temple profane the Sabbath, and are blameless? But I say unto you that in this place is one greater than the temple. But if ye had known what this meaneth, I will have mercy and not sacrifice, you would not have condemned the guiltless. For the Son of Man is Lord, even of the Sabbath day. And when he was departed thence, he went into their synagogue. And behold, there was a man which had his hand withered. And they asked him, saying, Is it lawful to heal on the Sabbath days? That they might accuse him. And he said unto them, What man shall there be among you that shall have one sheep, and if it fall into a pit on the Sabbath day, will he not lay hold on it and lift it out? How much then is a man better than a sheep? Wherefore it is lawful to do well on the Sabbath days. Then said he to the man, Stretch forth thine hand. And he stretched it forth, and it was restored whole, like as the other. Then the Pharisees went out, and held counsel against him, how they might destroy him. But when Jesus knew it, he withdrew himself from thence, and great multitudes followed him. And he healed them all, and charged them that they should not make him known, that it might be fulfilled which was spoken by Isaiah the prophet, saying, Behold my servant, whom I have chosen, my beloved, in whom my soul is well pleased. I will put my spirit upon him. He shall show judgment to the Gentiles. He shall not strive nor cry, neither shall any man hear his voice in the streets. A bruised reed shall he not break, and a smoking flax shall he not quench, till he send forth judgment unto victory. And in his name shall the Gentiles trust. I'll just finish it. Then was brought unto him one possessed with a devil. You know what? Actually, we're going to cease reading there, because there's a lot of chapter there, and we're definitely not going to get that far into it. We'll read all that again for chapter 11 tomorrow. Let's begin where we are right now in chapter 10. I'm sorry, 11. We'll read 12 again tomorrow. anyway, verse 15. He that has an ear, hath an ear, let him hear, is actually, it really sort of belongs more logically with the previous clause, right? So more like there. But I wanted to talk about just a little bit, because everything, if you will receive it, the mysteries of the kingdom, they are not things that are readily understood. Like I said, to the casual observer, the Bible is a book of stories, a collection of books, of stories, of histories, some of which, may be accurate, according, some of which may not. And accurate is a question, because, like I said, depends on if what you're talking about is history, if we're talking about is prophecy. There's different ways these things are looked at. Like I said, when they try to make revelation into history, I'm like, sorta. You read even like Isaiah 13 and 14, where it talks about Babylon and then the king of Babylon. I mean, in a metaphorical sense, you could say some of that's true of Babylon. But ultimately, it's speaking to something even beyond that. And I point that out when we study the prophets, that very often it goes well beyond. The point is, to truly understand, to really have your eyes open to the reality. Because it's strange, because we can kind of believe in things and be asleep. I look at that as my youth. It's like, Jesus was God, and okay, there was all this other stuff in my life distracting me. I knew I was Christian. I had my children's Bible. I'd read it. I pretty much believed it. But I was living in a different time, place, and situation. And was I hearing it? I wasn't sure what I was looking for. I'm too young to understand. But John came in the spirit and power of Elijah. And he's saying, not everyone can receive this. That's why he's saying, if you can receive it, if you will receive it. I don't think we have to go back and talk about, I thought we did a decent job covering that. Let's move on. So but it is so essential. Because if we don't have our eyes open in the spirit, so to speak, where we're actually paying attention and looking for understanding and trying to expand our understanding that we still see through a glass darkly, for all we think we know about God. I remember when I first started studying the Bible, within 6 months, people were impressed with me. I was impressed with myself. But that's such a, that's the true, as they call it, the Dunning-Kruger effect, where at the beginning you learn a lot of stuff, and you become mildly proficient, but you overestimate how much you've learned because you've learned so much. You know what I mean? You still haven't learned how much there is to learn. And the Bible is a great big book, but it's not that big. But the difficulty in understanding is real, especially when you're talking about mysteries. And it's not that you have to have an incredible intellect to understand. It's like you have to have your eyes opened to understand. So whereunto shall I liken this generation? It is like children sitting in the markets calling to their fellows and saying, we have piped to you, but you have not danced. We have mourned unto you, you have not lamented. And so what it's saying is like the idea of, children saying, we've tried to, we're calling to, we've piped, we played the music, right? But you're not playing along. You're not dancing like you're supposed to. Dance. For some reason I was thinking about, what's his name? Oh, that Looney Tune character, Yosemite Sam. Shooting up Bugs Bunny's feet, telling them to dance. Dance. we want you to dance. Now, of course, they don't mean it quite like that, but the point is, it's like you're supposed to play along with us. I say dance, you dance. We're going to mourn, but you haven't played along. You're not doing. We're going through the motions of what we think things should be. We piped and you did not dance. We mourned and you did not lament. Because neither their laughter nor their sorrow is real. And he's not dancing along because there's nothing to dance to. He's not mourning because there's nothing to be sad about. As far as John came neither eating and drinking. He came with fasting and severity and austerity, right? And, and he was a strange person eating honey and locusts out in the wilderness. And they said, he has a devil. We don't want that. We don't want some guy out in the wilderness doing some strange things, making a big stink, come be baptized. The kingdom of heaven is at hand, right? Preaching essentially the same message. And then the Son of Man, he himself, came eating and drinking. And the fact that he calls himself the Son of Man is another thing that is like suggestive of his divinity, because it gives him a certain weird outlook. The human being is kind of like saying like that, but referring to yourself. The human being, like he's speaking for all men when he says that. When he says the Son of Man, he's saying, I'm the representative of all humankind. And this is, and I'm that person, because that's what Son of Man is, a term used in the Old Testament of other regular human beings. It's not some special messianic term. Only Jesus uses it this way. Because that's how he sees himself, as I'm a Son of Man. But he's demonstrating how every Son of Man should live. Not that we necessarily, like he said, there's a time for fasting. Okay, Jesus also fasted. They just didn't know about it. He went in the wilderness and fasted 40 days. But then he came and he began to preach and dine with people. And he did not stay in the wilderness. He had a temporary time in the wilderness where he's tempted of the devil. But then he came to people where they are. He didn't call them out into the wilderness, but he came into their homes. Interestingly, because the prophets call us out of our old world. You know what I mean? And they guide us to Christ. And when we go to Christ, he comes in and dwells with you. You don't have to go out somewhere to him. That's why the temple and all that stuff is not so important. Just like you said, one greater than the temple is here. We are the body of Christ. That makes us the temple of God. And so when he comes in the way he comes, they say, oh, he's gluttonous. And they're critical no matter what. You can't please them. They're like children. They don't really know what they want. They're happy or sad. It's all just nonsense. Their religion is childish. A lot of religion is childish. It feels a lot like high school sometimes at church, with the backbiting and all the just whatever. It attract and the thing is, whenever you have a gathering of people, you're going to attract people who are socially a little psychopathic or predatory. I don't know. And we had all kinds in church. A lot of nice folks. Some folks that had other motivations. Some folk, like just like in school, it's like some people don't like you. Some people like you for your virtues. Some people don't like you for your virtues. And some people just don't like people. And it's like nothing to do with you. And some people are like that and they still hang around church. I don't know. A wine bibber, a friend. Now, these were not necessarily true. Don't take their accusations for authenticity. I mean, any more than John had a devil, Jesus was not gluttonous, a wine bibber, or a friend of publicans and sinners in the scandalous way that people often suggest. He was a friend to publicans and sinners, but because he called them to repentance and to the kingdom. And he knew that they were the people who were more likely to humble themselves and who could humble themselves and did not think so highly of themselves. That's the danger of Christendom today. Because they remind me, when I think about this, when he upbraids the cities, right? Where his mighty works were done. And all that, it says, well, if the works that were done in you had been done in Tyre and Sidon, they would have repented a long time ago. If they had access to the resources that we do, we say we're Christians, we got the Bibles, we got everything, and yet, like I said, during the Crusades and the Inquisition, Most people were illiterate. A lot of them were superstitious. The Bible was not something people read. They maybe read parts of it in church. But they didn't know. So what's our excuse? They did things that people look now and they say, like, that they tortured people they didn't need to do. Why was the church torturing people? People act as if, Christians would never do. Oh, no, they would. And they still will. They will participate. People who think they're Christians, at least, are going to participate in the great apostasy. And they will participate in the murder of God's witnesses. Well, let me go back here. Let's not miss this. Wisdom is justified of her children. What's that mean? Well, that means when you use wisdom, the results, it's like to me, it's like, because it's using a analogy of children being an obvious way to judge the character of their parents. The children, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, as they say, right? And so when children are well behaved, people often think, well, their parents did something right? Or they at least didn't do something wrong that would have made them intolerable or turn out badly or undesirable in some way. And so the idea is that when you use wisdom, the proof of it, knowing that it's justified, was that wise? Was this wise? Well, what are the results? What are the children? Children are like fruit. They are the offspring, the next thing that comes out of it, that produce. It fits into that analogy of the fruit. So, wisdom is justified of her fruit. It could be, because the fruit of the womb is his reward. That's the children. You got to understand there's a lot of the symbology overlaps. So the children here are symbolizing the things that we could. It's interesting because he's talking about children. You're like children. But wisdom is justified of her children. They're not truly being wise. There's a hidden wisdom, which is that they're playing games. You're like children playing games. You want to play pipe, and make happy. Let's sing it, when you go to church. I remember there was a time when I was getting ready to leave church, when I just didn't feel like dancing anymore. I didn't feel emotional anymore. I was troubled by things. I was troubled. And I think that's Jesus. He comes to his generation and he sees the way things are, and it's not good. The religious leaders are, they're legalistic and fake. They're hypocrites, as we're going to see. They're deep down, they're murderous, and they're more interested in their own control over people than they are. Because, people say religion was invented to control people. I mean, maybe there's a fair argument there. Okay. But religion is not, like they say, religion is the source of all these wars. It's like, no. Control over religion is what people fight over. Nobody fights over the Trinity. Nobody, as far as there's never been a war fought, the Trinity, no! They're fighting about, okay, which church is going to be the national church of as different kings rebelled against the Catholic Church and instituted blanket reformation. This is it's a war over religion, but over control of religion. Because who controls religion is very important to the state. Because it controls narratives and stuff like that. That's why we have such a weird state in our country, because it's like there's the state almost has its own religion. You couldn't completely keep the church out of the state. That's one of the frustrating things about it, because I would like to completely divorce religion from government. Unfortunately, what you believe has a lot to do with the kind of laws you pass, if you believe a lot of this newfangled, I love using that, newfangled gender ideology, well, you're going to have a great deal of disagreement with people who still think that there are only, there's just male and female, created he, them. And there are exceptions, like people born with deformities. I've been born with deformities, I get it. But exceptions are exceptions. They don't overthrow the rule. It's because you have it's like all the, all these nuts are 9/16. It's like one comes out differently. Well, that's just a reject. It didn't come out right. Now, am I saying like, well, even there are rejects. I'm a reject. You're a reject. Wouldn't you like to be a reject too? Because, and I that's why I always cite that verse. I got verses in Deuteronomy against me. That's why I'm a Christian. Because he fulfilled all the law. So because where I can't, he did. I'm a Gentile. What part do I have in these things? Well, he made it so that we could have part. Okay, where's my text? Wisdom is justified of her children. Because again, they're not really they're not able. That goes back to he that hath ears to hear, let him hear. They can't really hear him. They're too busy trying to make him conform to what they think he ought to be. That's like I talk about this where Jesus did not conform to people's prophetic messianic expectations. They had some idea of what the Messiah would be like. You read the Old Testament, you get a sense. It's like, yeah, there are verses where it sounds like he's this healing power, just like we see at the first Advent. But it seems, since it's all kind of slopped together, people didn't know exactly what to make of it. But now the revelation has come to us, and we understand that, no, he would appear once meek and lowly and having salvation, and in bringing that to us and giving us the opportunity to enter the kingdom of God through faith. And then appear once again in judgment of all those who heard not. He gave the gospel. He gave us a lot of time. He gave us time to do stuff with it. We didn't, it's been 2,000 years, and I'll tell you what, the world has not been converted. We've got the gospel to all over the place. I don't know if the true gospel has been preached, and maybe ultimately that will be fulfilled by the two witnesses. Like that'll be the final push to preach the gospel to every creature which is under heaven. Because I don't know what quality of gospel everyone's heard. They've heard often a very different gospel from the one I would preach. So then he begins to upbraid the cities where most of his mighty works were done, because they repented not. And like I said, that's like where it does make me think. We have a lot of opportunities. That's the terrifying part. Is like we have a Bible. We think, we're the Christians. We're the Christians. In the first century, the scribes and Pharisees, they were like, we're Abraham's seed. We're Abraham's seed. We're on the right team. God favors us. It's all about, And then they wonder why when they pipe and they mourn, God doesn't answer and play along. Why doesn't God do what you want him to do? Why doesn't he answer you? Why doesn't you ask what you will and it's done? Pipe, dance. Oh, I dance for you. It's childish. When I hear playing funeral or playing church, it's much more serious than that. They would have repented. They all have, for them, there's a great deal of sin involved in this. Because like I said, their pride, their arrogance, their feeling of themselves as being the chosen people. That's the thing. We know we are God's chosen. That's how it works. He has mercy on us. It's by grace through faith, man. It's not by works through fulfilling commandments. And so God is responsible for our salvation primarily. It's primarily his responsibility. We participate with him in that work, but it is his work. And so, when we look around, we can't take that for granted, though. Because that's the point. It's like, it's a great and wonderful salvation. It's sure. But it's a funny thing, though. Because people, like I said, you take that one talent, that belief that you think, I've got it. I know that Jesus is Lord. And you go bury that on the earth somewhere as if it doesn't exist in your life. That's going to be a problem. If we aren't living out, as far as the fruit God really wants is like, do good to one another. be a healing force, be a positive force for good, especially for God's kingdom. But for the people should not be hurt but helped. To bring about peace. And we know that to the end, wars are determined. It's kind of sad. I was getting the feeling like maybe it was the end of history, and we'd all sorted it out. And then only to find out my own country has gone megalomaniacal with its power, deciding that we have to be the ones. We got to be the sole dominant power on the earth for there to be peace. That's what's bringing war. Our desire to be in total domination is just a recipe for continual war. Because who wants to be continually dominated by a wicked foreign power that doesn't respect people's rights? It'd be one thing if we just said, well, we're going to treat everyone in the world like we treat our citizens. It's funny, they don't do that. When they come across the border, though, they get more rights than the citizens. More privileges, let's say. And they want them to vote. But if they're living in another country, bomb them to oblivion, apparently. It's okay. Open season. Open season on people in other countries. But when they get here, we're going to treat them like babies, We're going to give them debit cards. We're going to give them phones. We're going to get them all situated. It's such a weird thing. And then the people in this country, though, they want to take away our rights. See, they're bringing people in who don't have rights in their countries so that they can capture the people here who do. Because the presence of people without, they don't know, they're not used to standing up for rights. Rights? What rights? They're trying to make the population more compliant. And they're succeeding. So there goes the population. They won't succeed with us, though. If we have, that's the thing, is like we need to understand that when our blessings and our position, and recognize it. Recognize that when we have had the Lord's favor towards us, that we should do the appropriate thing with that. It should be more tolerable for Tyre and Sidon in the day of judgment than for you. And of course, the idea that talks about there being more tolerable in the day of judgment. When most mainstream Christianity says that in the day of judgment there's only one thing, and it's completely intolerable. There's no different tolerances. There's no subtlety of judgment. Judgment is all eternal torture all the time, and forever and ever, and quite most literally. You know what I mean? And death, though, now death is just a fantasy. There's no such thing as death. You will never truly die. Immortality is your chain. You will be bound to this conscious existence for all infinite time, in which you will spend an infinite amount of time in the future just suffering the most awful fate you can imagine. You can't even imagine. And that's the literal truth, right? Okay. No wonder people don't believe the Bible. But that's it's built into it, because you can make a plausible argument. You can make an argument. I said it's a question of well, when I fold the paper in half and open up the ink blot, what do you see, the old lady or the young woman? Is death real, or is eternal torment? Is death literal, or is eternal torment literal? It's one or the other. You can't have both. It's set up that way. And it's funny because Christians are kind of embarrassed about it. They never like to talk. Oh, we don't like to talk about hell. Well, you should. You shouldn't. You should be talking about it and delighting in God's judgment. Oh, this is the righteous judgment of God. Everyone gets the same thing. Infinite punishment for infinite amount of time. And it's never going to let up, not even a little bit. You never get used to it. These are things people have told me. I'm like, wouldn't you? I was like, because it's like, if it doesn't kill you, then by definition you can tolerate it. No? And again. I mean, if I could be burned alive every day for the rest of infinity, that seems like I'm invincible. Oh, but it hurts. Does it after a while, isn't it? I mean, my body hurts now. Why don't I just get used to it? Oh, no, you never get used to it. I don't know about that. But where do you get all that? Like I said, there's a sort of vindictive desire to like, oh, you won't join my team? Well, let me tell you what's going to happen to you if you don't join my team. Capernaum, you are exalted into heaven and shall be brought down to hell. That's going to be Hades, I believe. The grave. I'll check it real quick. I'm not going to bring it up on screen. Thou Capernaum. All right, Bible. We need to go to the Strongs with the King JV. Down verse here. Capernaum, Chorazin, Bethsaida. These are all up in the Galilee region, right? Tyre and Zidon. Well, that's in modern Lebanon. Brought down to hell. Hell is Hades in Greek. Yep. So it's not the lake of fire, but just referring to, death and, hell, and the gates of hell shall not prevail against it. That's another grave reference because it's Hades, not the lake of fire, which is Gehenna, which refers to the second death, because the lake of fire is the second death. For if the mighty works which had been done and they had been done in Sodom, it would have remained the same. If Sodom had this opportunity, this is what I talk about, that hidden wisdom. There's a wisdom hidden that if the princes of this world knew it, they're at least wise enough, shrewd enough to be like, you know what, let's not crucify Jesus because he's actually the Son of God. And we didn't think this was real. You know what I mean? It's like because if it comes in your heart to realize, it's like, oh, wait a second. Like I've seen it in movies where all of a sudden, like the prince reveals himself and they're like, oh, he's we were going to do sorry, like, sorry, Your Majesty. Because they fear for their own hides. It's a lot like the story of the unjust steward. Because when he realizes he's going to be put out of his stewardship, he compensates by doing other things. Not good things, not just things, shrewd on his own behalf. And that time Jesus answered and said, I thank you, O Father, Lord of heaven and earth, because thou hast hid these things from the wise and prudent. This is a hidden wisdom. Hast revealed them unto babes. Oftentimes the simple people, the wise and the prudent. There are not many wise, not many mighty, not many powerful men are even called. I'm sorry. Even so, Father, for so it seemed good in thy sight. He has hidden it. Notice it's like these things are not just invisible. Thou hast hid. And people say, it's these things and those things and the temptations of this life and the deceitfulness of riches. Yes, but what allows all those things to be? Ultimately, it's God. God is responsible for everything. It's his plan. That's how everything works together for good, for those that love God, who are called according to his purpose. But to his enemies, he seems an enemy. Like he said, I will be an enemy to your enemies. Sometimes the wise and prudent don't always, even to this day, they're so smart they work themselves into, maybe it's not real. I get it. I think because of my intellect causes you to question things and you think of more explanations and you don't, the simple explanation, God did it, is not enough for some people. And it leads to all kinds of investigations and trying to figure this out. It's all there. But we cannot find out God. I remember saying, tell people God's hidden, and have Christians being like, what are you talking about? Don't be silly. God isn't hidden. It's, they want to be like, they think like it's got to be the God, because they can't make sense of it. Because they say God loves everybody. And therefore, because it says God so loved the world, and they'll consider, in what way did he love the world? Well, that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever would believe on him Remember, at the same time, the ability to believe, he's hidden that from the wise and the prudent. So some people who might otherwise have the wisdom and the prudence to choose rightly, it's hidden. No matter how wise you are, if you don't have all the facts, you can't do what you need to do. That's what he's saying here. All things are delivered unto me of my Father. Whatever I have, whatever I can give, whatever I say, the truth, it is given to me of my Father. Disciples, my followers, those who are, they who you gave me, I have kept, and none of them is lost, but the son of perdition, as he said. All things are delivered unto me. All judgment is delivered unto the Son. All things. And no man knoweth the Son. What does that mean? But the Father. No man can know the Son for who he is. You know what I mean? To know him. Now, how can we know him? He must be revealed to us. You can know all about the story of Jesus. You can read the Bible a ton, but that doesn't mean you know him. The living Christ. You can, it's like you can read a biography about, Winston Churchill. Doesn't mean you know him. You know of him. You know about him, but you don't know him. You don't know him in that sense, that intimate sense. And I don't mean in the intimate euphemistic sense. I just mean in the intimate sense of people having intimate knowledge of each other. To truly know him, like to know God as you are known. That's why knowing is a euphemism for sex. Because it's a very intimate experience. It's a very up close and personal type thing. All right? And that's why we use know instead of, because it indicates a similar level of involvement. You know what I mean? Because you knew them, you know them, okay. And also knowing someone in a way where it's like they know you know them. That's what I mean. That's almost an important part of it. Do you know John? I know of him, right? But do you know John? No, I don't know John. I never met him. Right? That doesn't. It's not the same. And that's the kind of knowing I believe we're talking about here. I don't know if it's specific to the Greek. I'm just talking about specific in the sense of what he's trying to communicate with us. Knoweth the Son. Yeah, this is a very epignosko. It's precise knowledge. It's not, gnosko is the usual Greek word for knowledge. And epignosko. Probably epigenosko. Where is my thing? Okay, there we go. To know exactly, to recognize, to come to know by directing my attention to him or it. I perceive, discern, recognize, found out. To know exactly, to recognize. Like to understand who he is. And to also to be known of him. In a different way than just the way, it says like God knows everybody. He knows everything. Okay, but does he know you? Like the way a familiar friend knows a familiar friend. No man knows the Son but the Father. Neither knoweth any man the Father save the Son. Because they are so intimately connected. No one knows the Father. No one knows the Son but the Father, neither knoweth any man the Father, save the Son, and he to whomsoever the Son will reveal him. You know what I mean? The Son must reveal the Father to us. Ultimately, he does. He reveals himself to us, God, through the Son. And that's why I believe when I received the Holy Spirit, it was because I used the name of Jesus. Not that it wouldn't have been Jesus in any case, but I did. And there's power in his name. Not necessarily in saying Jesus. You could say Yeshua or whatever your language is. But I call on him by the name I know him by. And what I have known of him by. And then it gives this passage we talked about a little last time. Come all to me, all you that labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Again, the burdens we carry are the burdens of sin. The idea is he gives us rest from sin. Take my yoke upon you and learn of me. I am meek and lowly in heart, and ye shall find rest to your souls. God is really, what does it mean that he is meek and lowly in heart? How is God actually meek and lowly? Shouldn't God be, he is very restrained. Why is there so much evil in the world? Because God is meek. He controls himself. He allows it to happen. He can fix it. Since he can fix it, you know what I'm saying? Like what? Imagine the worst thing anyone's ever suffered in this world. Is there anything that could inconceivably be done to make up for that, if it needs to be made up for? You know what I mean? Like that a God who can snap his fingers and speak a universe into existence could fix it. Well, then, that's what I'm saying. It's like the problem of evil is always kind of funny to me, because it's like there's a problem of good also. That's a big problem. The things are so good. That's a problem for unbelief. Good and evil are part of our experience. And we receive good and evil of the Lord. So Job said, I received good, shall I not also receive evil? God doesn't owe me a living. He doesn't. I can have things happen to me for no other reason than it's part of God's plan. And then glory be to God. It's a tough pill to swallow. People think that's hard. It's like, no, because what he wants to do is set us free from the yoke of bondage. Sin is hard. People don't realize it. It makes me think of what I was saying about love. Until sin destroys your life, it's hard to understand just how destructive it is. And sometimes, it's like it says in Isaiah, he hath compassed himself about with fire, and it burned him, but he knew it not. You know what I mean? It's like sometimes you do things, you surround yourself with flame and you get burned. But then, now that's one thing, but then they don't even know they've been burned. And that's preposterous. Yeah, but that's how people act. Because oftentimes the consequences of sin are not immediate, but long-term. And same thing goes with righteousness. Sometimes the consequences of righteousness are not immediate. It's long-term. Like they say, pay it forward. Well, sometimes that's what you need to do. Lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven, not treasures on earth. You may not get immediate gratification or satisfaction from following Christ, but you won't get a heavy burden. Whenever I've obeyed the Lord and whatever little thing he's commanded me to do, or I felt, moved to do through the Spirit, however you want to characterize it. I mean, it wasn't like a voice came out of the sky telling me to do, maybe once or twice. Not out of the sky exactly, but like a heavy in my mind, like almost like a voice, like a very strong thought, like stronger than I usually am, even when I'm thinking, that kind of thing where it's like, well, that was a powerful thought that just popped into my head. Rarely. I think he's talking about the yoke of Christ, telling the truth. Now we think of it as hard because of our apprehensions of what people are going to think. But if we're thinking about, well, what's Jesus going to think? Well, then it becomes easy to tell the truth. And the truth is easier to tell because you don't have to remember what you said. You don't have to remember, well, what was the story I gave him? You just have to just tell the truth. And then it's easy as pie. Straight and narrow is the way. In some ways, it's the easiest way of all. The difficulty comes from our reluctance to, because sin is, it's kind of sticky. It likes to stick to you. The temptations is not as easy to throw off as sometimes you'd like. But, and that's what makes things hard. It's like Satan trying to pull you back to doing his thing. That's the hard part. Not what God asks of us. I always find myself most pleased when I know I'm doing what God's will is. Then I can be like, if I'm suffering anything, it's not because I haven't done his will. And you shall find rest to your soul. So he talks about this rest. That's why I say Christ ultimately is our Sabbath. That's how I believe it. He is Lord of the Sabbath, and he is our Sabbath. He is the one that gives us the true rest. Rest from the labors. Rest from those, especially the labors and travails of sin. Because they do diminish our lives. They diminish our relationships. And when you sin against the people you love or against strangers, it does not improve your life. Or you make things more unhappy around you, and that spreads to other people. And the kingdom of God suffers violence. But when you enter into God's kingdom, like they say, they shut up the kingdom of heaven against men. They neither go in themselves, neither suffer those that are entering to go in. And I think of that as like church leaders. They don't really want you. That they're the ones who take religion seriously, not you. You just come and pay, and then you never have to enter in. They'll do it for you. They've entered the kingdom. They're the holy people. You're just the laity. You just do your thing. Go back to your job. Go back to your life. We'll take care of your assurance of salvation. Yes, just believe. And sin doesn't matter. They sing a song to seduce people into a very lax attitude towards, like I say, I don't think you have to be a Bible scholar. You just need to do what's right, as the Lord taught, And when you realize you've done wrong, you got to fix it, Either, if it's something that can be repaid and repaired, then do it. If it's something that can't, well, then maybe you just take that as a lesson for the future. So that's the way it goes. And we kind of talked about that question. It's not supposed to be the hard thing. It can be. Well, life is hard, right? Life is hard. There's hard things about life. But what Christ asks of us is not hard. Ultimately. I mean, it was like, well, what about going to the cross and all that? It's like, well, believe me, it's easier to get there than you think. Just keep telling the truth, and you'll find yourself crucified, It's not hard. We just keep letting the Holy Ghost speak through you. And you'll see that you following the path of Jesus it's like slipping off a log, It's very easy. No, I agree on that point. It's like, because it leaves you also with a clean conscience. When you know you're doing wrong, and there is peace. The peace of God which passes understanding shall make your hearts and minds. It shall cleanse your hearts and minds through Christ Jesus. God which passes all understanding shall... No, make your hearts and minds... I forgot the verb there is. And that's a song. So here on the Sabbath day, Jesus is going through the corn. And since I've got things going on today, it's 3 o'clock, I need to get moving. I think we're just going to start chapter 12 next time. But I read into it because of this whole Sabbath thing. He is Lord of the Sabbath. His whole attitude about it. I am Lord of the Sabbath day. It's not like, oh, wait, no, don't break the Sabbath, even in the least part of the commandments. And I'm going to demonstrate. You go back to the Old Testament. There's plenty of reasons to look at this as a violation of the Sabbath. But what Jesus is saying is like, yeah, I'm above the law. Because I'm like Moses, I can make the law. And I say, I'm the Lord of the Sabbath today. Which is also, who is Lord of the Sabbath? Ultimately, it's God. See, people say Jesus never claims to be God. No, I mean, he just attributes to himself God-like attributes. He heals the sick and the blind, does all these things, and says that, hey, if you're offended, it's a good thing for you if you're not offended at me. Let me tell you that, buddy. And I am Lord of the Sabbath day. My disciples do what they like. Because I'm like David the king coming through. I need some bread. And the law be the law. I need some bread. Because I got important business because I'm the king. I'm the king. I'm the Lord. I got my business. I can set the rules. And that's certainly how it comes off to me. And when he says this verse about that definitely really seals it. I will have mercy and not sacrifice. I'm not interested in the minutiae of your law. I want you to do what's right. at the deep level, not just at the surface level. Anyways, we'll pick up with chapter 12 next time. We're going to end a little early. That's fine. I got a late start, and also I need to be somewhere real soon. So thanks for joining me. Look forward to being back again tomorrow. Until then, remember the testimony of Jesus is the spirit of prophecy, and he is the fulfillment of the law.
And he shall judge among the nations, and shall rebuke many people, and they shall beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore. O house of Jacob, come ye, let us walk in the light of the Lord. Therefore thou hast forsaken thy people, the house of Jacob.